In 1665, the Great Plague swept across England, forcing universities to shut their doors. Cambridge closed and all the students were sent home. One of those students was a young man named Isaac Newton. He didn't choose to be isolated, it was forced upon him. For months, Newton lived alone in the countryside, completely cut off from the lectures, the debates, and the entire academic world he knew. It was during this period of solitude that he began to develop the early ideas that would completely reshape our understanding of the universe. He laid the groundwork for calculus, pioneered foundational work on optics, and had his very first thoughts on the nature of gravity. Historians now look back on this time and call it his annus mirabilis, his year of wonders. Now, the important thing here isn't just that Newton was a genius, it's the conditions under which his genius flourished. He had extended periods of quiet. There was no external pressure to perform, no constant stimulation demanding his attention. He was just alone with his thoughts. This pattern shows up again and again throughout history, and not just in science. You see it in business, in investing, and in almost every story of long-term, groundbreaking success. Today we hear a lot about the billionaire mindset. It's often talked about as if it's all about raw motivation, unshakable confidence, or relentless ambition. But when you look closely at how the most successful people actually operate, a different trait keeps appearing over and over. The ability to manage themselves in solitude. This doesn't mean being an antisocial hermit. It means having emotional self-reliance. It's the ability to be alone with your own thoughts without needing constant distraction. For many of us, that's incredibly difficult. Silence can be uncomfortable because it removes the noise we use to avoid ourselves. When the distractions are gone, you're left with your own thoughts, your doubts, your fears, and your responsibilities. That can feel overwhelming. So what do? We fill every quiet moment. We check our phones, scroll through feeds, watch videos, listen to podcasts, or start a conversation. We do anything to avoid being truly alone with our minds. But here's the problem. Deep, original thinking cannot survive in an environment of constant noise. This is why some of the most successful investors and founders in the world intentionally design their lives around quiet, uninterrupted time. Take Warren Buffett. He has said many times that the vast majority of his day is spent reading and thinking, not in meetings, not answering emails. He's reading annual reports, studying businesses, and slowly, deliberately thinking through his decisions. Buffett credits this habit, this slow, deliberate thinking, as one of the primary reasons for his incredible success. It's not about speed or frantic activity. From the outside, it probably looks incredibly boring, but over time that focused thinking compounds into extraordinary results. The same is true for Bill Gates. He's famous for his Think Weeks. Twice a year, he completely isolates himself with nothing but books and big ideas. He deliberately cuts off all distractions to give himself the space to think deeply. The books he recommends, like Factfulness or Sapiens, aren't quick reads you can skim through. They demand your full attention, your patience, and the time to let the ideas sink in. This highlights something crucial. Focus isn't just about self-discipline. It's about your environment. If you can't tolerate being alone with your own thoughts, you will always struggle to think long-term. And long-term thinking is where the real leverage in life is found. Another pattern you see in both historical figures and modern titans is a sense of extreme ownership. When you're alone and something goes wrong, there's no crowd to blame, no noise to hide behind. Solitude forces responsibility inward. You have to face your own mistakes. Ray Dalio, the founder of the world's largest hedge fund, built his entire investment philosophy around this idea, which he documented in his book, Principles. Dalio emphasizes radical transparency, relentless reflection, and learning from mistakes by confronting uncomfortable truths. These are not social activities. They require brutal honesty with yourself, and that's nearly impossible when you're constantly distracted or seeking validation from others. This is why being comfortable alone is such a superpower. If you can manage your own emotions without needing external reassurance, you can make clearer, more rational decisions, especially under pressure. If you can think for yourself without needing immediate feedback or approval, you're far less likely to follow the herd into bad choices. Over time, this ability to think alone evolves into systems thinking. Most people operate on a task-based level. They trade their time for a result. When they stop working, the progress stops. But people who achieve success at a massive scale think differently. They don't just do tasks, they build systems. They create things that continue to produce value even without their constant direct effort. Things like businesses, software platforms, intellectual property, or investment frameworks. Designing these systems requires patience, abstract thinking, and the ability to see several steps ahead. That kind of strategic thought doesn't come from a place of urgency or chaos. It emerges from quiet reflection. This is why figures like Elon Musk have repeatedly recommended books like 0 to 1, which is all about building something fundamentally new instead of just competing harder within the existing rules. Creating something new almost always begins as an unpopular idea, and holding on to an unpopular idea requires a kind of confidence that doesn't depend on immediate social approval. And what's the one habit that ties all of this together? Reading. Across decades, across industries, one behavior shows up consistently among the world's most successful people. They read a lot, and not just casually. They read seriously with intent. Charlie Munger, Buffett's longtime business partner, famously said, "I have never known a wise man who didn't read all the time." Think about the books frequently cited by billionaires. The Intelligent Investor, Thinking Fast and Slow, Poor Charlie's Almanac. Reading is, by its very nature, a solitary act. But more importantly, applying the knowledge from those books requires you to think, quietly, about how abstract ideas connect to your real-world decisions. Now let's be clear about one thing. None of this is a guarantee of wealth or success. History, access to resources, and pure luck all play a massive role. Not everyone starts from the same place, but what this mindset does provide is durability. It makes you more resilient. People who can manage themselves in solitude are better equipped to handle uncertainty, to delay gratification, and to think beyond the immediate reward. They are less reactive, less dependent on the noise of the crowd, and more capable of building things that compound and grow over time. And this is where the idea becomes practical for all of us. Being comfortable alone isn't about becoming a recluse and cutting yourself off from the world. It's about learning to use quiet time productively. It's about scheduling an hour without your phone. It's about taking time every week to review your goals without anyone else's input. It's about thinking through a big decision before you ask for 10 different opinions. It's about doing focused, deep work even when no one is watching or giving you credit for it. These habits don't look flashy. They don't make for exciting social media posts, but they work. Isaac Newton didn't know he was changing the course of history while sitting alone during the plague. He was simply using the quiet time he was given to think deeply, without distraction. The so-called billionaire mindset isn't really about money at all. It's about self-governance. It's about mastering your own mind. Because when all the noise finally stops, when there's no one left to impress, no one to reassure you, and no one to distract you, what you do in that quiet space is what will ultimately determine how far you can really go. And that is something anyone, anywhere, can start practicing today. Thanks for watching. If you found this valuable, consider subscribing for more ideas on thinking and living deliberately.